Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc. Yes, I'm back. And I say back because you know what? The virus got me because I had to stay inside, stay away from people. And that's not me, man. I'm not an introvert. I am an extrovert. I need to be out around people. That's where I get my energy from. And that's why I love hanging out with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's guest is someone that I met, I believe on Clubhouse, but then she has her new app that's coming out. I met her because she was speaking and I was intrigued by what she's doing. And I actually joined the Wisdom app, which you're going to hear about here on this show. But I'm also intrigued at the fact that she's a tech co-founder or founder, I should say. And I am a co-founder and I want to ask some questions. This is how I learn. And for those of you watching and trying to figure out how did I move so fast into where I am and how did I elevate so fast over the last few years, it's because of asking kind of questions that we're going to ask today and getting around people that are a little bit ahead of the game than you, a little farther down the road than you. So please pay attention as we're going through this with my guest, Dayo Akinrinade. Did I do the good?
Perfect. Yes,
okay.
You did.
I wanted to take that nice and slow, but Dayo, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Well, you know, you're calling in from the UK, I believe, right?
That's correct.
So you are about 5 p.m., 6 p.m.?
Yeah, 5 p.m., just past 5 p.m. Yeah.
And I am around noon. So if I have a little bit more energy than her, guys, I just want you to remember that she's been already in her day for 5 or 6 hours ahead of me. So she's been through a lot more right now. And I haven't gotten there yet. So yeah, but I'm still just on the coffee and rolling. So although you're in the UK, so you might have just passed the time for tea, and tea sometimes has caffeine, right?
A little bit, yes. Tea. We do tea time 4 or 5 p.m. and lots of tea all day, of course, because it's England.
Yeah, awesome. I love tea too, but coffee's my number one. So, all right. So Dayo, here's how we start the show. Every time we want to stick to that before we get down a rabbit hole. What are you made of?
Okay, so I'm going to say I'm made of consistency, because I think passion and interest are needed, but if you don't apply yourself consistently, and even when you don't think the results are going to come, but I'm a firm believer that if you're consistent and you plant the seeds, what I find in tech is that those seeds will grow. And sometimes there'll be a seed I planted in like October or June, but it comes back around and it's going to grow and you're going to get results. So consistency.
Yeah. And then there's also something else there I hear is patience.
Yeah, I think that's a good one too. I think patience and coupled with a strong belief in what you're building. And I think particularly in tech, as the founder, sometimes you have a vision, you have this crazy idea, right? Like with Wisdom, I had this vision and I said, look, we're going to take social audio. We know it exists for Clubhouse, but I said, we're going to have a particular utility, which is mentoring and connecting people to have meaningful conversations, one-to-one conversations. And oftentimes people around you are not necessarily going to see the vision, but it's about being consistent and believing your vision and, you know, painting that vision and selling that vision. And then you get people on board to bring it to life.
Yeah. You know what I noticed a lot of people have a vision. They get frustrated because people don't see their vision, but you're the one with the vision. You're the one with the clarity, and you could actually see it in color in 3D. And you have to figure out a way to transfer that into other people, and telling them one time is not going to do it. Right. You can't just tell somebody one time and expect them to grasp it. So that's where that patience has to come in. And that's a weakness of mine, or has been in the past. I ain't letting it be a weakness anymore. I'm urgent all the time. It's got to be now. It's got to be now. And I get frustrated very easily in the past because I didn't understand why people couldn't see the same vision. And once you get people to see the vision though, and then they start believing and buying in, then in order for them to justify their decision to do that in their head, whether they spend money on it, invest time, effort, whatever, then they have to tell other people about it. And that's what the point you want to get to with people. Am I right?
Yes, I think absolutely right. And especially when people can take your product or your service and rephrase it in their own words without coaching, that's when you know you have it. And to your point, sometimes it's the convincing and it's the selling. when I speak to the early community of wisdomers, which is why I call them wisdomers, they're great because they sell wisdom in their own words. So when they tell me things like wisdom has changed my life, when people tell me things like I've closed paying clients on wisdom, and not even with the hard sell, because they just go live and they speak about their expertise, they speak about what they're passionate about, they take Q&A from listeners. Somebody else is listening in the background, listening to an expert diagnosing and working something out with a potential client, and you're listening as a third party, and then you're like, hey, I want to book you for this same thing because I've seen you in action. And so when we see these cycles happening and then people come back with the testimonials, to your point, yeah, they're selling for you because they're taking what you do and putting it into their own words. And yeah, I think that's when you know you're winning. Like, for example, what did someone say with wisdom? They said, because the way you navigate through wisdom, and actually to anyone listening in, we're saying wisdom, but so we are a social audio app, and what we do is we use social audio to connect mentors to knowledge seekers. And what's different about wisdom is we have one-to-one intimate conversations. One of our users was telling somebody else, he said wisdom is like a Tinder stack of TED Talks. And he kind of said that because you navigate through wisdom by swiping, you swipe through cards, but every card is a live audio conversation that's happening. So you listen a bit, do I want to go to the next one? And you swipe through. And he said it's a Tinder stack of TED Talks. And I was like, look, I could never have come up with that. Like, people just come up with, how they want to describe it.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's the greatest. You got your messaging that you start with, and then it evolves through the users. I love that. So before we get any more into wisdom, which we're going to talk more about, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where'd you come from, and what was it like growing up, and what are some of the adversities that you had to handle coming up?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So I was born in the UK, and spent the majority portion of my life here. When I was about 9 years old, as a family, we moved to Nigeria, which is where I am originally from. So kind of like, culturally, spent a number of years there, then moved back to the UK and I've always been in tech, right? So I studied computer science. And then from there, I moved into management consulting in the City of London. I would say in terms of adversity, I would say the majority of challenges I faced in my journey, unfortunately, it's been due to like diversity and intersectionality. So it will oftentimes happen that perhaps maybe I am subject to detrimental treatment or underestimated, perhaps sometimes in terms of being a woman, doing something a bit technical, sometimes also being a Black woman, and people are just kind of surprised, like, I didn't think you would have studied that, or I don't think, you would have done this or whatnot. So I would say that in terms of adversity, it's that thing I think of just maybe not always being able to benefit from a benefit of the doubt, perhaps sometimes unconscious bias, and just really needing to prove oneself and kind of give that assurance.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just on that topic, I don't know if you know this about me, but I am involved with the 10X incubator with Grant Cardone and Jared Yellen. And we're going to be building, scaling, and selling 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. That's our moonshot. And we're on our way to do that. One of the main things that we wanted to make sure of, and this stemmed from Jared Yellen's mission, is that he wanted to democratize and diversitize the tech industry and make a big impact on this planet. And that aligned with Grant Cardone wanting to make sure that he did the same thing in the real estate investing world. And so when they got together and they talked about this became a key objective. And I went out a lot on Clubhouse and was listening. And what these wisdom app, the audio apps allowed me to do was get into more rooms of people that I don't normally get to hang around, because first of all, I don't go out of my house much anymore because I have my studio here, my office here. But when I do go out, like I want to be around like all different kinds of culture, all different kinds of people, because I want to learn about them. And I'm radically open-minded. So what this allowed me to do was start listening to people. And we actually just yesterday or the day before launched the diversity division of the 10X incubator, where we're going to go and we're not going to sit and wait we're going to actively go out and go after those that are underserved to create like unwavering diversity in the tech space. And so I love that you said that and brought that up. I love that you pushed through and persevered to get to where you are today. And yeah, this is something that I feel strongly about, because we can all sit here and agree with it and we can complain about it. But at the end of the day, those that do something about it are the ones that create success and make an impact. So I know I'd love to connect with you on that further offline as well. Okay.
I was going to say absolutely, and I think we have a commonality in the vision there as well. With wisdom, our mission is to democratize access to mentoring, and that actually speaks to my origin story as well, where I constantly felt at various stages of my career in tech that I wasn't able to access the right mentoring. I kind of realized that I could have gone further faster if I had been able to tap into, I think, mentoring and then also sponsorship. Like, I saw the differences in how my career was more accelerated. I got promoted faster when I had a mentor, when I had somebody also who was advocating for me when I wasn't in the room, because that's a thing which you don't know until you realize that, you know, somebody can do that for you. And what I found was that when, for example, maybe I was thinking of, oh, should I be in a different subsector? Do I want to change industry? I would go on LinkedIn and I would inbox people that maybe they worked at a company I was interested in, or, you know, they had done something that I kind of admired, and I would ask them a question. But what I found is that LinkedIn isn't built for mentoring. I think by and large on LinkedIn, you can get a load of DMs, but if you don't know the person DMing you, you have no way of filtering those inbounds for quality. And what I find ends up happening is when there's a warm introduction, then you end up responding because you've got a mutual contact who is saying, hey, I know this person, it would be really great if you could meet with them. So I think what happens is that the knowledge, which I think is a privilege as well, it stays within closed networks of people who know each other or friends of friends. And so really the aim with wisdom is to like bypass this warm introduction and just like open it up and democratize. So as you said, which is what I think social audio is doing in the wider context, because it's allowing people to meet and talk who would probably never have talked, right? Different neighborhoods, different countries, different industries. And it's just kind of, you know, throwing us all together.
Yeah, I love that. So what was the first idea that you had, like, as far as tech? Was it the Wisdom app or was it something else?
It was something else actually. So my very first startup is actually a dating app. It's called Afroclick. And the concept is that it is a dating app, but we're specifically addressing the underserved African market, because in essence, globally, there's about 1.4 billion people of African descent, with dating being a large opportunity as well. So in essence, it's looking at we look at a cultural group and use very specific cultural data. So things like, say for myself, I identify from a particular tribe, I have a second language, I have a dual nationality. And so in essence, like, yeah, we take this data set and use a specific algorithm to match people up to. So that is a startup. And, you know, it's still like an ongoing interest. But as I was working on it, social audio became a thing. And personally, I've never really been a social media person, right? Like, I didn't have the patience to take the pretty pictures for Instagram, to record the YouTube videos. Like, that wasn't me, you know. And I find that a lot of us are really taking to social audio because you don't have to be great at taking pictures or videos. We can just talk. And so that was where I then saw the opportunity to say, well, I think Clubhouse is amazing. That's like the big footprint, right? It's kind of proving that we know social audio.
Yeah.
This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but I believe, my hypothesis is there's going to be different use cases. We're going to see social audio pop up in so many formats. And, I keep on saying this. I'm telling people, however you do your personal banking today, if your bank has an app, there's going to be a direct audio connection to your banking advisor. There will. And they're going to be running rooms on different weeks about different things you need to know about. Do you know what I mean? Financial planning 101, mortgages, this, we're going to be dropping in. I think there's going to be so many B2B case studies. There's going to be use cases for SMEs. I'm telling people now, whether you're a vet, whether you're a lawyer, whoever you are, you lead by giving advice, audio is a great place to do it because you get that one-to-one real-time interaction with your users, right? If you visit a website, if I play a YouTube on your website, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to your team.
Yep.
It's that one-to-one. And I don't know, you may recall, I think it was in the early days of Clubhouse, Josh Constein, I think he's a tech journalist. He did a really big interview with Mark. Yeah, he did an interview with the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuck, the founder of Shopify, and I think it was the founder of Spotify at the time. So it was, you know, really influential people together. And Mark Zuckerberg said, he said social audio is really interesting. And he said there's going to be many different formats, like one-to-one, one-to-many for family. And he said one-to-one, I think there's something interesting there. I didn't know this at the time, but when I kind of trace it back to wisdom, and I think what we do in particular that is unique is the one-to-one, right? Through social audio. And you probably noticed it when, you know, you did a great talk with Carmelia Ray on wisdom. And what people find on wisdom is they may have interacted on other social media platforms, but they're like, wow, I would never have known this, and this about you. Some people are like, oh, we've been sharing Clubhouse stages for months, but I didn't know your origin story because we've been on a stage with so many other people. But that's very different from having two people going deep and just having like that intimacy of the conversation.
Definitely.
Then with the audience listening in. So yeah, I just think it presents something different.
Yeah, the intimacy of it, which can be on other apps, but that's not designed for that. And they don't lean towards that. So you having that niche is phenomenal, because Carmelia did not know a lot of the story that I have. And I still don't know a lot of her story, because when you're on these other apps with all those people on the stage, you feel like you have to hurry up and they say, land your plane, right? And you have
land your plane.
You don't want to be that person. Yeah, you don't want to be that person that's on and on and on, and you can only fit so much in, and you're picking your spots. And so it's a dance. That they're different dances, I would say, you know, but that's what I love about it. So take us back. So what was the first time you thought about doing the Wisdom app? Like when was that?
Gosh, so now we're in 2022, 2020. I would say late 2020, early 2021.
Okay, so late 2020, early 2021, so about a year ago, right?
Yes, yeah. So
okay, and then
well over a year ago.
Were you trying to think of a new product at the time, or you just said, like, watching Clubhouse, watching these other things, and like, oh, wait a minute, I got this? Or were you actively looking for a new company?
I was not looking for a new company. I just really took to social audio, and I was surprised because I'm usually not a social media person at all, but I really took to social audio. In London, there is something called, in the UK, it's called LBC. It's called talk radio, talkback radio. I'm not sure if you have a similar something in the States. So it's a radio station, but they don't play any music. All people do is call in all day, and they have conversations like politics, social issues, or that type of thing. Yeah, exactly, sports. So I think I've always been into talk radio anyway. Then Clubhouse became a thing, but yeah, it wasn't in the plan, but I saw an opportunity, and I saw an opportunity where, you know, as I said, with this lack of mentorship and access to knowledge, because working in the tech space, I would constantly come across founders, and I've also worked on like a big diversity in tech program in the UK. So there's a program called One Tech, and it to date is the UK's largest diversity in startups program. And what we were doing was looking at, so in London, we have something called the London Co-Investment Fund. In essence, it's a government-backed fund, about £50 million. And as long as you live in London, they will co-invest. So if I get somebody to put 50K into my startup, I can go to this government-backed fund. They'll maybe put in 25K. So it's funding that is, you know, it's meant to be accessible. And the problem that they had with the fund, I think they were about 65% of the way through the fund, but they found out that they kept on investing in the same profile of founder. So typically people who had a university degree, who were men, and who were white as well. And the issue was that they looked at the diversity profile of London versus who they were investing in, and it wasn't a match. There weren't many women, there weren't many immigrants. And what we found from working on the program was that it, in essence, we found out that women want to do startups. Everyone wants to do startups. People want to do a tech startup. So it wasn't for a lack of pipeline. And so when we were really unearthing to see, what is it? One of the key things we found was a lack of mentorship. So meaning if there's an individual, you have an idea, maybe you want to build something in tech for a particular industry. Let's just say the restaurant industry or the food industry. It's really important early on in your journey that you can go and interview restaurant owners. So you can validate, you have an idea in your head. And founders, sometimes we romanticize. So you'll be like, this is the thing that's gonna fix the thing in the restaurant industry. But until you're sitting down with restaurant owners, right, who are in the thick of it every day, that's when you can validate. And that's when you can ask that question. Sometimes if you ask a business owner, what is keeping you up at night? And then they tell you. And then they're like, if you can make something to fix this, I'll sign up for a pilot today. Like, tell me when. And that's when for if anyone is listening in, if you have a tech idea, am I building something that people want? The closer you can get to, actually solving problems. So what we found was that for a lot of the underserved groups, the underrepresented groups, they wanted to build businesses in tech, but because they weren't able to access the right mentoring and the right knowledge, a lot of them weren't building the right product. They weren't solving the right problem, which then just makes your journey, so much longer, and it makes it harder to access investment. So I think to your point, this notion of access to knowledge, access to mentoring was very much top of my mind, because I'd seen talented people, but they weren't building the right thing. They didn't have the right knowledge. Then social audio became a thing, and then it was just an opportunity to use social audio to tackle that problem space.
Now, did you know from your experience how to put a team together to accomplish this, and how much it would take investment wise or capital wise, I should say, and how long it would take? Like, did you know that already, or did you have to go seek that out when you had the idea?
So that was something I mean, with software development, I would say you never fully know, but you can estimate to within a maybe 70%. And then, it's going to run over a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's expertise I had just from having a career of working in tech and in essence, working on like enterprise tech and releases and working with teams in the UK. I've also worked out of India and built teams there. So managing remote teams in Eastern Europe and things like that. So yeah, that was something I knew.
Gotcha. And then go to market. How about go to market? Did you know how to take this to market? Or did you what were your thoughts on that?
That's a good one. So for that, yeah, I'm going to say no, because especially particularly with early stage tech startups, you tend to find we don't really spend a lot on marketing. There's the notion and the hypothesis is that if you build something that is going to resonate with people, then the word of mouth will kind of spread. And you'll also find when you speak to investors to raise money, investors don't want to hear you're spending their money on marketing. They want to hear you're spending it on maybe product, infrastructure, tech, talent, people. They don't like the idea of marketing, because the belief is that if you're building something that that people really want, it will kind of spread itself or found its niche. And I would say for Wisdom, our early niche, because we launched in October last year, we're still quite new, but our early community were really resonating with the podcast community for some reason. Possibly because I think podcasters are great at talking, they're also great at monologues. And then I think podcasters are seeing an opportunity where they're used to recording in a studio, so anyone they're interacting with, they've had to pre-arrange to invite them in. But they're now saying, oh, we can record our podcast live on Wisdom, We can have an audience of listeners. We have a feature where even listeners can react, like with emojis. So you can clap, you can boo, you can heart and stuff like that. So they can record their podcast live. They can gauge people's reactions. And then where with Wisdom, we have this guest timer format. So you can allow somebody to come into your guest spot for like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, all the way. So podcasters are like, well, we can take live guests, we can get live interaction. So it's adding a different dimension to their podcasts. And that was actually on their requests in the early days before we launched. We've built in the feature now where when you go live on Wisdom, you record your talk. You can download the talk file afterwards. So you can download that as like an MP4. So that's also empowering the creator, because we've said from day one, anything you can create on Wisdom, it's yours. Download it, repurpose it, go and upload it wherever. And then a recent feature that we've also launched really for our early community is now we have high fidelity recording. So the idea being that if you record your podcast on Wisdom, there isn't a compromise in terms of the quality of the audio you're getting, which I think is also maybe luring. It's lowering the bar and increasing access to podcasting now, because now two people can download the Wisdom app, and you can do it live and just add another dimension. And then maybe what some podcasters are doing is they're still recording what they would in the studio, but then they're doing like a live sort of after party segment on Wisdom afterwards. So like let's chop it up, let's get the reactions, and then they're downloading that and then repurposing it as they will. So that was an unexpected thing. So yeah, so to your question around the go-to-market, that was an open space, and it had just so happened that this is like our beachhead segment.
Yeah, and so as you're thinking about go-to-market and getting it out there, what are a couple things that you had to keep pushing out of your mind, like limiting beliefs? And, we all have them. Some of us have a handle on them better than others, but limiting beliefs, or how am I going to get millions of people in here? Like a million seems like a lot, like those kind of things. And understanding that with the product, you need mass, you need volume to make value, right? So what are some of the things that kept you up at night or kept thinking and you had to keep pushing out?
I think I have to keep on having the mantra front of mind that do things that don't scale. So trusting within this lean startup concept that within the early stages of your startup, the ways you're going to acquire customers are going to be things that don't scale. So let's say, to give for an example, if I reached out to a community of podcasters, which is some of the things I did, hey, we're building this thing, we think it's going to be really cool, would you be interested? I have to be comfortable doing that with the team, and having a team to do it as well, but understanding that that's not the thing that's going to get us to the tens of millions, but we can't be reaching out. But you have to, trust that, do things that don't scale at the beginning, get your really loyal early community, which we have now. I would say from launch in October through to December, where we announced and we put out a press release because we had raised a 2 million pre-seed round with like a great group of investors, including First Round Capital, who are like an amazing VC. And that was a good time to take stock and look at the stats. And we said our mentors had gone live for 600,000 minutes, and our listeners, the people who had been listening, was 3,600,000 minutes. So it was great in terms of that was just a few months in. But to your point, it's this doing things that don't scale. And also, I would say with growth as well, you can't stress too much about the future. Like, clearly there needs to be traction, there needs to be momentum, but it's just focusing on, okay, what do we need to do in the next 1 to 3 months? But if you stress and worry too much about the markers for 12 months, 24 months, it will become too much.
So what I had a question on the future and what you have your sights set on, as far as, and whatever you're able to talk about, monetization for the platform.
Sure, absolutely. So we did launch Wisdom with a feature called Mentacoin. And Mentacoin is a virtual in-app currency. And the way it works, if you go live on Wisdom and you talk, you earn Mentacoin in proportion to your listening minutes. Meaning it's not just how long you talk for, but it's how many people are listening to you and how long they're listening for. Now, the way Mentacoin works is, once you accumulate it, you can switch it out for a gift card within the app, and that gift card works at places like Starbucks and Target and Walmart, or you can donate your gift card to charity. And we're partnered with various charities like the Clean Water Fund and Habitat for Humanity. Now, the idea around Mentacoin is that, look, realistically, no one is going to get rich and retire off Mentacoin, but it is acknowledging what is now being termed the creator middle class. So people who have less than 1 million followers, all the way through to the tens of thousands, because I do believe that it's a bit crazy that the giant social networks, so the YouTubes, the Instagrams, they really tend to share their profit and their benefits with their creator upper class. So once you have 1 million or more, that's when the special programs open up. That's when you really reap the benefits of the algorithm. Whereas if you're just starting out and you're in more the tens of thousands, 50,000, 100,000, they're kind of ignored. So Mentacoin is our first, let's call that like monetization light in a way, because the idea around Mentacoin is that at least we're saying within Wisdom that, hey, we see you creating, we're acknowledging the minutes that you spend creating on Wisdom, which I think is important. So actually, as a creator, we have a great stats dashboard that will show you, this is how many minutes you've talked, this is how many people who have listened. And then for each talk you do, we keep a tally of the listens, because of course on Wisdom as well, all the talks are recorded, right?
Yeah.
And you can come back and you can play them in your own time. So the great thing is that when you create on Wisdom, people are still finding your talk afterwards, And so, and it also enables you as a creator to go back. I mean, similar to what I'd expect what you do with your pod, you go back and you look at the stats. You're like, which interviews did really well? What messaging is resonating, with the audience? Which is like something, so, which I think are all tools that help into monetization. I'm actually surprised Clubhouse doesn't offer those features so far. It's, I think it's surprising because people do spend a lot of hours creating, right?
Yeah,
and as a creator,
yeah.
you need to go back and look at the numbers. But then to your point around further plans for monetization, what is absolutely a priority on the roadmap is we are looking at enabling creators to directly monetize for their advice through Wisdom. So not through Mentacoin, but actually through like cash or digital payments. And so I can't say today exactly what it's going to look like, but in essence, envision where you maybe, you're speaking about your area, maybe like the life coaching, the motivation. Somebody's followed you on Wisdom. They've listened to your talks. They've asked to come into your guest spot, and you've given them maybe the grace of a 15-minute timed, like quick session. They've done that a couple of times, and then they decide, yeah, I want to book you. And I want to book you now. Let's not go into this funnel and go offline and schedule and, funnel people through. If somebody then wants to book you live on Wisdom and pay, so they can have a one-to-one session through you through audio, like that's what the future of Wisdom is going to look like. Possibly they may also pay for the session to be private rather than being broadcast, to everyone. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. So in terms of
I would if somebody was ready to give me money right away, like I would be willing to pay a portion of that fee to Wisdom, because I want to lock it up. Like while they got their card out, while they got the idea, it's hot, let's lock them up. I'll take less money, let's lock them up. So I love that idea. Like that's phenomenal. And final question here, because I respect your time here, and we went over a little bit. I apologize.
Oh no, it's totally fine. I'm really enjoying this.
Well, thank you. I am too. That's why I'm keeping you on for so long. One final question. What is your moonshot?
So for me, it's a future where I feel like today, if we have a question, you go straight to Google. That's kind of our go-to now. If you have a question, you go to Google, and your search results will give you a lot of information, but it doesn't always give you knowledge, right? I can't ask a Google search result, oh, I see, but what if da 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 da? It's going to tell me that. No, you just get like a load of information. So for me, it's going to be a future where people have questions and they're really seeking knowledge and they're seeking wisdom. You open up wisdom and you can speak to someone, you can speak to an expert live, have that human contact. So for me, I want wisdom to be like the first port of call when people have a question, but they really want a meaningful answer. And then for us to hit that mark where we can say we have 1 million mentors, and we can say, proportionally from that, we would have mentored like, tens of millions of people.
Love that. Love it. Well, I want to talk to you offline when we hang up. I got an idea. I always have ideas of causing and creating futures with people. I've been coached by some of the best in the industry, and I have a keen sense for synergies. So, but we're going to talk offline, but I want to thank you for being here. What's the best way for my audience to engage with you? Besides, guys, go download the Mentor app right now. I mean, I'm on there Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern and other times as well, popping in and out, but there's some great speakers, great mentors on there. Go check it out. But how can they engage with you, Dayo?
Yeah, perfect. So if they're interested in wisdom, if you go to the Apple store right now and you search for wisdom, we will come up. Android will be available roughly within the next 3 months. So hold on, we're coming for that. If you want to know more about wisdom, it's at wisdom.audio. And for myself, my socials are Dayo, DAYOAKK. And you will find me on Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, those are the best places.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, go tell her that you saw her here, and let's support our guests, especially when they're like onto something new and they're trying to make impact on this planet. Let's do that. Let's take time to invest in them. I appreciate you, Waymo crew. I appreciate you being here. Dayo, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to working with you in the future. And we are aligned in so many of our focus on our I can't even think of our targets. So until next time, guys, keep coming back. Go subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you like watching these, you can go to YouTube and watch these. And until next time, be unstoppable.